You're tapped out with Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine on the BetQL network.
Hopefully you're having a good Saturday night and making some money. Welcome back into Tapped Out with Brendan Tobin. I am indeed the sports machine, Sean Levine. BT rocking his Florida Panthers shirt. BT, do you actually come across Panthers down in Florida? I know alligators and iguanas like a real problem.
Huge comeback with the Florida Panther, dude, because they introduced Texas Pumas down here to kind of rebirth the population. So I have never come across one live, but the population, they say, is booming.
The more you know. See, we don't just talk fighting. We talk a little wildlife here. Mama always told me you're never too old to make new friends. So let's welcome a new friend of the show, MMA journalist Jason Hagholm joins us, and we're watching the fights along with you. And, dude, there have been a couple of crazy ones. Terrence McKinney got kicked in the face. That was a crazy knockout. Chase Hooper looked unbelievable. If we're going for an early fight of the night, based on what we've seen so far, what are you leaning towards?
I think you got to lean that Billy Goff and the Waters fight. That fight was incredible. Just really all gas, no heart, really, for both guys, just throwing everything they had. I mean, you know it's a good fight when after the first round, Dana White goes on Instagram Live and says he should give both Waters and Goff $20,000 as a bonus just for that first round. Like, Dana was in love with it, then you know it was a really good fight. I mean, it got the crowd going in St. Louis, which is a positive, because those first couple fights were a little slow to start the night out.
Yeah, you know what? I would love the idea of Dana White just going and throwing cash in the middle of the corner. I think that should be like the new way to do it. Like immediate reaction to a shot. Like it just has like a almost like a Russian mob feel. Just be like, yeah, 20,000. That was amazing. Here we go out there. From this standpoint, Chase Hooper looked really, really good in his performance. Calls out Patty the Batty subtly in his post-fight press conference. How do you like that matchup, Jason? Do you feel like that's too much for Patty Pimblett to take on, or do you like that matchup of the two young bucks going at it?
I like that fight a lot. I mean, Chase Hooper looked incredible. I expected a good performance from Chase Hooper, but I didn't expect him to blow away Slava Claus the way that he did, with the dropping with the first punch, controlling on the ground, having that, and then eventually getting the submission in the second round. And the subtle call out of Patty I liked as well. If that fight were to get made, I don't think MMA Twitter could handle it. I just think that's one that would just blow up the stratosphere with the fan base that Patty has, and the ability that Chase has to have a following there on the MMA Twitter, that side. I like that fight a lot. I mean, I'd like to see it, and why not reward Hooper for a game opponent after a performance like that?
BT, why are you so hell-bent that fight's not going to happen? Because everything that Jason just said, if it would blow up MMA Twitter, and it's not like we're talking about two top 10 fighters or anything like that, why not make it happen?
I just don't think they're gonna. I feel like that gets Patty Pimblett in dangerous waters, dude. I feel like Chase Hooper's gonna embarrass him. That's what I think. I'm not trying to be a Patty the Batty hater, but I just think that adorable little nerd is gonna he's gonna do something that's gonna end the whole hype train that is Patty Pimblett.
You might be right. That Chase Hooper beatdown, I mean, that was a beatdown that I just saw. We're talking with Jason Hagholm here on the BetQL network. We're trying to make some money on this card. Some pretty big names coming up in St. Louis still to fight. Alonzo Menafield, Joaquin Buckley, Black Beast, Derek Lewis. Which fighter do you feel most confident about in the fights coming up?
Ooh, that's a good. I honestly would go feel with in the co-main event in Ruzabayev against Joaquin Buckley. I feel like Buckley, he's riding this momentum and everything like that, but that's a tough ask here for Buckley in his hometown to put on a big performance. And this feels kind of, in some ways, maybe a bit of a punishment from Dana White for maybe Buckley annoying him at that press conference a little bit while ago. I mean, Ruzabayev is an incredible fighter in his own right here. 2-0 in the UFC with both wins coming by a first-round finish. I would feel confident in Ruzabayev coming through and getting a win here against Joaquin Buckley and silencing the crowd in St. Louis.
What about in the main event, Jason? Derek Lewis, we were talking a little about this one before you got on with us. If he loses tonight, that's 5 out of 6. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but I never can rule him out. I'm too much of a fanboy to ever rule against Derek Lewis. How do you like his chances tonight?
I think he's got to get it done in the first round. If this fight sees a second round or even longer, that's when I think Nascimento can put this one away. Nascimento's got a tank. Obviously, when you look at his track record in the UFC, he's picked up mostly decision victories, including some split decisions over Ilir Latifi and fellow Canadian of mine, Tanner Boser. But I think Nascimento here's got to find a way to get this fight out of the first round, and then he can really control the fight and maybe ride out a decision or put away Lewis, because what we've seen with Lewis is once these fights go longer, his gas tank starts to run out and his will starts to break a little bit.
Jason, you obviously know your stuff, so you've proven that. Now we just got to break you down a little bit, get to know you. And I'm not even going to ask a question, just general your thoughts when it comes to Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Hey, Sugar Sean O'Malley, you know what? You may not like some of his antics, and he wears some ridiculous outfits, but the guy is an incredible fighter and someone that the UFC obviously sees something in since he had that Contender Series fight back on season 1. I mean, they're marketing him. They're putting finishes of when he wins titles out on social media for everyone to see. They're putting him with Dana White at the roast of Tom Brady on Netflix last weekend. Like, they believe he can be the star that the UFC needs. And let's face it, the UFC needs some stars right now. So I'm not going to hate on what Sean O'Malley brings to the table. His fighting style is incredible. Especially with that performance just a few months ago at UFC 299 against Chito Vera. So I like Sean O'Malley. He's fighting in a deadly division and he is the champion. And you know what? The UFC needs stars. So I'm all about Sean O'Malley.
Old stars have been back in the news this week, Jason. John Jones has found his Twitter thumbs again. He has been very active on social media. And we have gone from, Aspinall to Pereira to now it seems like we're circling back to the original plan of him fighting Stipe next. So GOAT versus heavyweight GOAT. If you had your ways of John Jones, who would you like to see him fight next? What interests you the most?
Well, I think it's the Aspinall fight. I mean, why have Aspinall be this interim champion if he can't fight the actual champion? That's the one I want to see. I think everyone wants to see him have that fight because that's a heavyweight they feel that can really push him. Whereas, Stipe's definitely maybe his better days are behind him. Obviously, if he wants to fight, the current light heavyweight champion here in Pereira, that would obviously be at heavyweight. But let's fight Aspinall. Aspinall's someone that deserves it. He's been wanting it. And yeah, we don't need John Jones tweeting anymore. Please, for the love of goodness, someone take his phone away.
If we're talking John Jones, superstar, some questionable outside the octagon activities, the next question seems to always involve Conor McGregor, so I'll just go there. He is back. We think we're going to see his return in a couple of months versus Michael Chandler. That fight probably goes off ultimately in BetMGM, pretty close to even money. Jason, where's your money going that night?
I would lean towards Michael Chandler. I feel like this is the moment he's been waiting for. He's been in camps. He's been active enough training around waiting for this fight. Whereas there's Conor who, he is training, but, he just signed this deal to, take over, part management of BKFC. He's just had a movie come out. Like, how serious or how much even time training is he going to be effective for a guy whose mind is 24 hours a day, 365 on mixed martial arts in Michael Chandler? I feel like Chandler's waited for this moment. He's going to thrive in it because Conor's got so many other opportunities here in the realm of combat sports, whether it's with BKFC or whatever he wants to do post that. I think Chandler needs this fight for himself to really solidify his legacy, where Conor's legacy is already, done for.
A guy who could jump into a title talk if Conor does get a win. In a couple of weeks, we have UFC 302 with Islam versus Dustin Poirier. How much of a shot you giving Poirier in this one? It's kind of probably his last crack at the belt. Islam has shown some vulnerabilities as a champion. Definitely hasn't been as dominant as his big bro Khabib has been. But do you feel Dustin has a shot in this one? Because the odds obviously very leaning towards Islam. So if you had a little scratch to throw on this one, would you see the value in playing a Dustin Poirier, or do you feel like Islam has got the blueprint to take him out?
I would put some money here on Dustin Poirier because I think we're going to see the best version of Dustin Poirier that we can at this stage, because he probably knows he can't climb himself up the mountaintop one more time as he's done it countless times in his career to, win an interim title, fight for this lightweight title against Khabib, now get this opportunity again here where he thought it was over after the loss to Gaethje last year. I think we're going to see the best version here of Dustin Poirier to do whatever's in his power to come away with this UFC lightweight championship, a title that's eluded him for such a long period of time. And if he wins, maybe one more fight. If not, he could even maybe retire holding that belt, because that's been his ultimate goal here. Though probably would have one more fight, because UFC obviously hates when you win a title and then retire. But I would put some money here on Poirier, because I think you can follow some things from the first Volkanovski fight over to this camp. For this fight, I think there's a chance here for Dustin Poirier. It's on U.S. soil too. That I think helps him out a lot. Where the Khabib fight was out in the Abu Dhabi. I would put some money here on Dustin Poirier. I think we all just want to see Dustin Poirier maybe win this title here for all he's done for the sport, and one of the best people in mixed martial arts.
Especially at those odds. Last time I saw it, he was like 3-1, 4-1. I mean, feed me Dustin Poirier that night. By the way, a real good way to get kicked off this show is to say bad stuff about Dustin Poirier to Brendan Tobin. So good job with that one. You get to stay around. That's our guy. What about Max Holloway, the new BMF? What makes the most sense for his next fight?
I want to see Max versus Ilia Topuria. I think after their last two performances, I would love to see that fight. I think their styles just mesh for just this incredible fight of the year candidate, incredible style fight. They're now barking at each other through social media, so there seems to be some validity in that. That's where I want to see Max Holloway go. If he can make the cut back to 145, though. Obviously, he seemed to like 155. He could be a name in the mix, but I think right now he wants that shot at Topuria, and to really solidify himself one more time is like one of the, if not the greatest featherweight of all time.
What have you made of how Topuria has acted since winning the title? I know he's taken some critiques on that. Have you been fine with it? The idea that he's maybe been a little bit too cocky. There's been talks, did he turn down a Volkanovski fight? I mean, what have you just made about his reign thus far, leading up to his first defense when he does get to put his belt on the line?
I've been very fine with it. I mean, look, the man brought the title to a Real Madrid soccer game, which is like the biggest thing you can, like one of the biggest moments, I think, for a mixed martial artist outside of the MMA bubble. It was one of the coolest moments. You know, he's enjoyed the fruits of his labor, becoming the champion, you know, parading that featherweight championship around Europe. Sure, you know what? He is the champion, but he openly said he would turn down some fights because, wait, he is the champion. He has that power. He has the ability to do that, and he's waiting for maybe that big fight that can happen in Spain at the Bernabeu where Real Madrid play. I think that's what he's hoping for. He's hoping for the biggest payday possible. And I would think right now, after that performance from Max Holloway at UFC 300 with that incredible knockout with a second left in the 5th round, go for that if you're the UFC. They love that. What a way to enter a new market like Spain with a Spanish champion against one of the biggest names that the sport has.
Talk a little fighting with Jason Hagholm here on the BetQL network. Jason, we've got a Khamzat Chimaev sighting, which is pretty rare, actually. He'll step back in the octagon against Robert Whittaker. Who you got in that fight? And do you think we really know yet how good Khamzat really is?
I think we may have seen some of those holes in the game from Khamzat. Like, he looked like this world beater, could just destroy you in one round, but then the Gilbert Burns fights happens, and you can see some holes once the fights go the distance, and didn't look that great against Kamaru Usman here. I mean, Robert Whittaker, he's just been a staple at middleweight forever, so I wouldn't hate putting some money on Robert Whittaker, because I think we may have seen what Khamzat Chimaev is. He could just be like a force in one round, but if you can survive him in one round, you can be able to push the pace to him. And Whittaker's a guy that can hit hard and has that big fight experience. I would maybe lean a little bit on Whittaker, but yeah, it's weird how we haven't seen much of Khamzat over the past little bit here.
Jason, turning it back to last week, were you more impressed with Steve Ercik in his first, real big stage fighting? Some people thought that he got robbed in the championship fight. Were you most impressed with his performance in the championship fight, or were you more impressed that Jose Aldo, 2 years out of the cage, doing what he's able to do, still looks like he's got something left in the tank?
I'm impressed with both, actually. Like, for Aldo to have that performance when, he retired, you thought maybe he thought it was, too much for him in his career, but he had some of those boxing fights out in Brazil. Maybe that reignited the fire for him. And he just looked like the Aldo of old, shutting down a real top contender at bantamweight, and Jonathan Martinez, won that fight on the scorecards 30-27 across the board. last fight of his deal, so I'm very interested to see what can happen with him going forward. I would assume maybe the UFC is going to throw a big play at him. They already put him in number 8 in the bantamweight division rankings this week, so maybe that's a little tip your hat, like something that the UFC is interested in. But for Usyk, I mean, this guy fought an incredible fight, took the fight to Pantoja, made a calculated mistake in that 5th round going for the takedown that ultimately cost him the fight. But this is a guy that knows that if I get back, seems to know that when he gets back there, he won't make those mistakes again. And he was able to put on a great performance against Pantoja, who's, got himself a nice title defense here and has added some stability at this flyweight division after we had the Figueiredo and Moreno hot potatoing of that belt for about 2 years.
I actually had Astro Boy winning that fight, but that's where my money was. I'm bitter like I always am. Jason Hagholm, great stuff, talking some fighting with us here on the BetQL Network.